Welcome to another session of Build Your Own Virtual Stage Summit. My name is Ana Andrea, and today we're going to be talking, let's be honest, it is a scary topic. So we're going to be breaking it down for you so we demystify it and make it easy as possible. Remember, we're trying to create a virtual stage that is low tech and high touch. Today, I have an expert that has worked with a lot of people in the industry and outside the industry, worked with churches and also billion-dollar corporations. So he is set apart in the skill sets he has. His name is Andrew Ybarra, and he's going to be telling us about his story. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate it. So, hello, everyone, and really excited to be sharing with you today. I do like to start off with a little bit of music. So, what do you say we have a little 5-second dance break?
Let's do it.
It's always fun to start with a little bit of energy. And since we're going to be talking about, technology and music, I thought that's a great way to kind of start things off because it really does have a big effect on virtual events and virtual event platforms. With virtual events being, just that virtual, it requires a little bit more from us to keep people engaged. And so I really love the power of music. And so we'll be talking with that a little bit today. So really excited to be here. Yeah, I'd love to tell a little bit about myself. And so, yeah, my name is Andrew. My company, Lifted Audiovisual Productions, supports coaches and entrepreneurs to have seamless and engaging virtual events, and I support them with audiovisual services. So everything from simple tech and support to building huge studios and hybrid events. And I've been in the audiovisual industry for over 14 years, and yeah, I've supported small grassroots churches and kind of worked my way up to working with billion-dollar corporations and running events for them. But I really fell in love with the coaching industry because the first time that I attended a seminar, I had no idea that self development was a thing, and I thought it was a bunch of snake oil at first. I was like, these people are crazy. What is all of this? But I eventually fell in love with it, and it's just incredible what coaches are out there doing, supporting others, empowering others. And it's really a special industry, and so I dedicated my skill set and my gifts to support those who have virtual events and in-person events, of course, before COVID.
Yeah, of course. I love that, Andrew, because I feel the same way. I fell in love with the coaching industry because an event changed my life. And when an event changed my life, and I don't say that lightly, it really shifted my mindset from becoming a employee to now an entrepreneur. Even though I had entrepreneur blood in my body, right? I still needed like the mindset break. And coaching industry is awesome for events, and most of the people watching are actually in something like that, online coaching or consulting. So they're very worried about all this technology, and I wanted you to help us demystify how we can do home studios and use music to elevate the energy, like you said. And that's why we started with the music. I love that. And how we can use it from small scale and maybe middle scale, because some of the people watching have more audiences. They're bigger, so they want to create a bigger stage, let's call it. So you have a presentation for us today, right? Before I dive into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did want to share, some of like my best practices, my best tips. I'll be sharing a little bit about home studios, and I had the opportunity to, build some really incredible home studios and build some really incredible events over the past year. And so, I wanted to share a little bit about what I've kind of learned along the way. Everything from the small home studio to the really large multiple Zoomzilla event.
I
And
love
so
those.
I'll be going through a little bit of that, and we can talk about that. So,
Yeah, awesome.
Again, I've
Thank
had
you.
the opportunity to share my gifts on a lot of different stages, virtual and in person. This was me in person about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, and running an event. It was an incredible event, and things were looking good. And then this little thing called COVID-19 hit, which was not fun. And so, yeah, it was not fun at first to kind of try to pivot and figure this virtual world out. But after I had my little pity party where I was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. How am I gonna pivot my business? I'm all about in person events. I realized that I love what I do so much. I love music. I love providing services to my clients. I love the coaching industry. So I'm gonna have to figure this out. And so I had the privilege of just continuing to learn and grow this past year. And this was in November, where I did a hybrid event, and you could see all the tech that goes into a hybrid event. I mean, it's incredible. Multiple Zoom rooms. We have production and music and a lot that goes into the back end to really create amazing studios. But this is of course a larger event. These are some of the other ones that I've gotten to create over the past year. These were studios that we built for my clients. So, as a speaker, sometimes you want different tools to be able to support you feel like you're on a stage, right? You may want your notes in front of you. You may want to see all the participants in front of you. You may want to, have separate rooms that are connected, and so you can kind of bring them all together if you want a really large audience. And then the bottom left is the hybrid event that I got to run, which was fantastic because we got to merge the in-person elements with a virtual attendees, and so the virtual attendees got to see all of the in-person attendees on camera, and the in-person attendees got to see all the virtual attendees on the TV screens. And so it's a really really amazing opportunity that's really opened up. And when you think past of everything negative that's happened, there's so much positive and so much that's opened up in this world. And so I want to talk a little bit next about virtual events and kind of remote events, as I like to call them. So, this on the bottom right is my little home studio. So, this is what I'm looking at right now is, my DJ setup. I have mixers and video elements, multiple computers. I have about 6 computers in front of me. Cameras and lights and all of this to kind of amplify a virtual event, so to add graphic elements and to bring music into it. And so I've learned a lot about what it takes to just kind of have a home studio so that you can still create an engaging experience, and does not have to be as advanced as mine are. I mean, I can get pretty crazy, but that's because I have a tech mind and I like to experiment with different things. But today I'm going to show a little bit about why it's important to have some of the basics, and I'll share with you some of the basics. So this is why it really matters to have an a really engaging and different kind of look to your event, look and feel. I know we've all heard the term Zoom fatigue, where there's a lot. It's just a talking head and maybe some content, some shared screen, and not much else. And this is why it's really important to have really something that's different and appealing. So when you have to think about the fact that people are watching your event on the same device that they usually watch Netflix on. So you're competing with Netflix essentially, and so you want to be able to keep things moving in a way that's engaging and that keeps them interacted. And so also when you incorporate some of the professional production elements, you immediately have a higher perceived value for your event. So anything that you're doing, adding little tiny things will automatically increase the perceived value for someone that's attending your event. And then also the wow factor. So these elements that I'm going to be sharing with you today are going to help you stand out from those that are doing content, because it's so easy to make content nowadays that you need to find ways to stand out. And so those are some of the things that are important. So and this is another reason why it matters. So on the left are pictures of some attendees that that's before they upgraded their studio production. So you could see it's a little bit dark. The lighting's not that great. It's not really focused. And then on the right, you see the difference that a camera, a little bit of lighting makes, and adding some other elements as well, such as background. So I'd like to share with you now three upgrades that you can do right now that are free. All right. So here we go. This is number one. So number one is your camera angle. So if you see here, on the camera angle that she has on the left, so this one is she has the camera angle below, and it's only a few inches below of where she's at. On the right, you can see that it's at her eye line. And so you see the difference it makes in her shape form and also that the angle that she's looking. I don't know about you, but I do not like to show my double chin. And so
No,
when
I
you're
hate it.
right, so you don't want to be looking down at your camera even just a couple inches. So whether you're on a laptop or you have a professional camera, keeping it at eye level, exactly where your eye line is going to just line up your face in a much better way. And it's subconscious, but people will notice the difference. So,
Oh yeah, you can totally tell.
right? So, Anna, let me see if you can see what are some of the what's one of the main differences you see between these two pictures here?
Well, it's always the lighting.
The lighting. That's number one.
And she's looking to the, like, instead of looking here, she's looking up.
Yeah, that's another good one. That one I didn't put in here, but yeah, you always want to be looking at the camera lens because that's where the participant's eyes are, right? When you're
Hmm.
looking at the lens, you're looking at your participants in their eyes.
Yep.
Um, One of the other, and this was the same event. One of the other things that I noticed when I was running this event was the background.
Oh, okay,
So you
yeah.
know, so you see the background, and what can you tell about the this person on the left? Well, we see an eagle above his head. He has a nice quote behind him. The other two pictures are from the military, so you can tell he has a military background. He has badges up behind him.
Yeah.
So you get to know a little bit about him without him having to say anything. And then the person on the right, um, what can we tell from her background? Maybe that she owns two chests, and that's about it.
That's it.
And yeah, so if you have anything that represents your brand, represents you, that you can put behind you and just on the wall, it really makes a difference to just people to help amplify your brand and gives people something that's not distracting, but something that draws their eyes onto you.
That's great advice.
Yeah. And then here's another one. So, if you're going to be on Zoom, Zoom obviously doesn't have the best camera if you have just using your computer, but Zoom has been upgrading their features. And so, if you go to your preferences, you can actually go under video, and then there are a few options there that you can do to adjust your lighting to put your video in HD, which I would always suggest because they by default it's off. So they will downgrade your quality. So go ahead and turn that HD on, and then you can actually adjust your lighting and adjust your appearance right there. There's a couple sliders, so that you can just amplify your video without having to invest in a really nice camera, but still make a difference.
Interesting.
Yeah. So those are a few of the quick free things that you can do there. We could go into like some of the essential equipment like microphones, cameras, and lighting, in depth, but wanted to check in, see if you had any questions and what you'd be interested in talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about a lot of hardware, right? We want to give an idea though of a ballpark of the investment because not everybody's ready for that investment. So what can we
Hmm.
do to up level besides the free stuff that you just said, right?
Yeah.
What can we invest in? Because it's important that we invest in, like, I think that you're about to talk about that, right? The basic equipment. What is the basic equipment we need, and how do we maybe make it more, like a little bit
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people don't like basic.
Yeah, how do you amplify it? And
Amplify, that's the
definitely,
word.
yes, yes, I
Yes.
love that word because it
Yes.
represents me and my brand. So yeah, how do we amplify home studio? So yes, I'm going to talk about these three elements, which are the three most important, which are microphones, cameras, and lighting. Those three things alone are going to make a huge difference in the way that you present. And for each of these, I'm going to be providing three different levels
Okay.
of purchasing, so that you can start with the very basic if you want, if you just want something basic, and go up to higher. And I'll talk about each of, the reasons why you would want, the mid, high, and low tier, for each
Awesome.
of those. So that way you can decide and you can build based on your budget. Because yeah, there's all different sorts of budgets for my clients. I don't always recommend the highest quality. Like if you don't need it, then don't invest in it. And so I'll help you to hopefully clarify some of that today.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew, because I know that everybody's asking, like, how much?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, so microphones, there are basic USB microphones for as little as $60, and that comes with its own boom stand that you can hook onto your desk and just plug right into your computer. Done. Hands done. Just basic investment. It's going to sound so much better than either the microphone on your computer. Even if you and even if you don't want to invest in this yet, even using like headphones or like AirPods, those are going to sound way better than your microphone on your computer. But if you just spend the $60, I think it's an incredible investment to just get a basic USB microphone. It's going to just make your voice sound great. If you're recording a podcast, if you're going to be on Zoom, if you're going to be presenting, you want your voice to come in as clear as possible. So, audio is, I think, one of the basic things you need. Next up is the Blue Yeti. I heard you say you had one of those, Anna. So that's an industry standard. I'm glad you have that. It sounds amazing when I hear you speak, and you can't go wrong with it. I mean, it's a high quality microphone. It has different options available on it. You want to hold it up just so everyone can see it and see kind of what it looks like. Yep. So beautiful. You're a great model.
This is
Thank you.
the, yeah, this is like the mini version though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a mini version. There's multiple versions. The Blue Yeti's a great microphone. They're a great brand, so I stand behind it. And then I also wanted to mention there are wireless microphones too. Maybe you like to stand up when you speak. Maybe you like to move around and you don't want to be tied down. Maybe you're leading some sort of movement like yoga or some sort of fitness. You'll want a wireless microphone so you're not tied down. Because if you're moving around, let me see. So it might sound like this. If you're moving around and you're talking in your microphone, you're going to hear it kind of come in and out. And we don't want that. We want it to sound clear the entire time. So one that clips onto you would be great. And they start at $130 for a wireless microphone, which is a really good investment if you want to start there. So I would just these are some of the basic standard microphones. I don't think you need to spend more than $150 for a microphone. I think it's staying under that you can get a great investment, great return on investment. So next, I'd like to talk about audio interfaces. So an audio interface is basically the in between your computer and your microphone. So you'd purchase a microphone, and then if you wanted to maybe have music or some sort of other device that can connect to your computer as well, you'd want an audio interface, and this would allow you to play music from where you are without having to share your computer sound, which is kind of a pain. When you're doing it all on one device. So this is going to allow you to plug in an iPod, and maybe an iPad, another computer. I'm using obviously a DJ mixer, but it allows you multiple inputs. So you plug it into this audio interface, and then the audio interface is USB into your computer. So it's not super complicated. These are two different levels of interface. The first is like Focusrite. So this is $120. I think they were even on sale the other day for $100 flat on Amazon, and you can't beat it. It's a great piece of equipment to own, especially if you're doing any podcasting. You can also use it for that. It's pretty standard. And then I also want to include it a high end. So the Rodecaster Pro is the one I have here on the right. This little baby is pretty fantastic. It's pretty new. It just came out this past year. It has buttons on it so you can do all sorts of sound effects. I have some here. So you can do some pretty cool sound effects. You can do some applause. You see it has buttons on it, so you can do music. You can queue up kind of whatever you want on that. You can plug in multiple microphones. You can record straight onto this. It has a Bluetooth. It has a bunch of features. I mean, it's you pay for the features. It is $600. It's pretty high when it comes to an audio interface. But this is for the pros out there. If you want a really professional and easy production, this is kind of a must-have if you're a do-it-yourselfer.
That Rodecaster Pro is making me little eyes.
Right? It's
Right. I'm
pretty cool.
like,
I mean,
I kind of need that.
yeah, the buttons, I mean, you can cue buttons on it. It has the multiple
Mm,
microphones so you can have guests in the room with you. It has a lot of really cool features. So,
yeah. You're
yeah.
basically creating our own studio, like a
Yeah.
TV room or a radio show.
Yeah, and they make these things now where they're pretty user friendly. I mean, it's not as complicated as it used to be to buy equipment because the industry calls for it, right? So the equipment is starting to follow, and so all of the stuff that I'll be sharing today is pretty user friendly, and most people can pick it up and plug it in and figure out how to use it within a few hours of playing with it. So
That is awesome. Yeah. User friendly is what I also recommend with software when when I'm teaching software. It's like if the app and the software is not user friendly, we're not using it. I
hmm
don't care how much it costs. I don't care how popular it is. It's
hmm
gonna cause more problems when I'm to my leads, to my clients, to the people that don't know a lot of tech.
That's a great point because the whole point of any of this is to make it more engaging. So if you have to stop for any second and be like, hold on, let me just adjust, disconnected just like that, and everyone's disconnected and you lost them. So you with
Yep.
the key with this stuff is to make it easier for you to do what you do best.
Mm.
When it come if you're doing too much of this, then you'll probably want to just hire a professional to run it for you so you can focus on the connection and just engaging with your audience, and everything magically happens in the background. But with most of the stuff, yes, it is user friendly, so it's not too complicated to use.
That's awesome.
All right. Next, we'll talk about cameras. So, cameras probably, I should have put this last because I think it's the third investment that you want to invest in. Um, Microphone being first, lighting being second, cameras
Mm.
being third. So, if you're just using Zoom, you don't need to invest in a in a camera because Zoom will downgrade the quality to 720 no matter what. So, if you buy a high quality camera, it's not going to go past what Zoom's going to allow it anyways. And so if you're only using it for Zoom, you may not want to invest in a camera yet. So I would put that last on the necessity list. However, once you do get there, here's a few options for you. So the first is a high quality webcam, $100 out the door. It's going to upgrade your camera quality. This is if you're using another platform, maybe YouTube, or if you're even just recording onto your computer content. It's going to just increase the quality by double almost. So investing in that is going to make a big difference once you're ready for that. The next is a Mevo camera. So this is another cool camera that came out just this past year in 2020, and it plugs right into your computer. Has a price tag of $380, and it's really cool because there's an app that comes with it, and if you use the app, you can program different scenes into the camera to have it zoom in, zoom out, maybe go over to the left side of your room, pan over to the right. If you have guests and you're owning a podcast or someone in the room with you, it can go back and forth between the two. And it even has a feature where it can follow you around the room. So if you like to pace back and forth and you want the camera to follow you, this has a really cool feature to do that. So some of my clients that again are creating studios where they have movement and some leading some sort of movement. This is great because then they can move around and not have to worry about being out of frame. So pretty cool camera. I just want to preface this: it's not perfect technology. It follows you as best it can, but you can't be running back and forth between your room and back and forth, but expecting it to follow you. But for the most part, I've seen it work pretty cool, pretty good. And then the last is the Canon SL3. So this is the camera that I am currently using. It's an amazing camera. It's $600 and it's a pro camera. You get really high quality video. I'll turn my camera back on so you can see like I'm in high definition. The lighting is great and it picks up pretty much everything and has a zoom function. And it also gives you the bokeh effect, which is the blurred effect behind. So a lot of clients, they're like, I want that. What do you call that where it's blurry in the background? That's called a bokeh, and you can get that by investing in a high quality camera like the Canon here. So for $600 when you're ready to invest in that, it's a really cool camera to do a bunch with and to get even more high quality video. Great. Now let's talk a little bit about lighting. So lighting is going to make such a big difference in your on your virtual calls. So I've included three different ones here. Um, the first is I found on Amazon. It's a dual ring light. And the reason I like it to be a dual and not just single ring light is because it gives you an even kind of effect on both sides. It gives you an overall glow instead of maybe having one side of your face glow more than the other. So I would suggest going that direction. For $50, you can't beat it. I would definitely start there. If you have the room, on Amazon, they have studio box lights for $70, and it's just such a good deal. That's what I have in my home studio. They're bulky, but if you have the room to put them in front of you, go for it because they're pro. That's what the pros use. They're mostly for cameras, but they do great for home studios. And then if you really want that extra effect, they do have professional LEDs. That's if you want to change the warmth and the color and dimmers. You'll see some people's cameras have a nice, really soft glow on their face. This is how they get it: is they have the professional lighting, and so those have a price tag of around $170. I think they're worth it. I I recommend them to my clients. I think they look amazing, and especially if you know after a long period of time and they're looking at you and you want a warm glow. It's just nicer on the eyes rather than the bright white. So luckily, even some of the dual ring lights have temperature control. So if you ever want to know what temperature control is, that's what it is. It gives you that warm white instead of the white. And then continuing on with lighting. So this is the difference between two lights and one light. So there's a picture I took of
Mm.
myself. So, when you have one light, even though it's almost right in front of me, there's still a little bit of shadow on my face. And then you'll see with two lights, it really gives me a nice full glow across my entire face so that there's no shadows. And maybe you like that one light effect. It definitely is a little bit more artsy and if you like that style, you could definitely go that way. Sometimes I run events. It seems a little bit more intimate, but I always prefer two lights, even it out, give yourself a full glow.
And the two lights, they should be like one on the right, one on the left, right?
Yes. Easy.
I know
Yeah.
it's a basic question, but Brendan Bouchard says it best. Common sense is not common practice. So
Exactly.
we have to ask.
Yeah, please. If you have any questions, yeah, I like them to be as close to the camera as possible. But yeah, one on either
Okay.
side, and facing you, both facing you, and that's how you get that nice glow.
Okay, awesome. And in the back, it's not necessary, right? Because I've been to some studios and they have like everywhere.
So I'll go into that a little bit, lighting up the background. You'll see in this
Okay.
picture I don't have any lighting in the background, but I will show some
Mm-hmm.
examples of what lighting can do behind you.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So briefly, I do want to go over some really cool softwares that I think can help those of you who are love to use software. So the first is Ecamm. So this is a Mac only production software. Really cool software. You can add different scenes. You can incorporate music. You can do picture in picture. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing here is like popping up onto the screen and I can even make myself smaller. So doing some of those cool things you can do with Ecamm, where you create different scenes. You can play your presentations behind you. It's a little bit of work on the back end to figure some of this stuff out. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but if you know software and you're pretty proficient in using software, then this is a really cool software to use. It incorporates in Zoom, and it's only like $14 a month, super reasonable. The next I want to talk about is OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software. It's free, and it can do a lot of the things that Ecamm can do. However, it's a little bit more techy, so it's not as user
Mm-hmm.
friendly. Ecamm is the more user friendly version. That's the one I could recommend if you are really techy and you have a brain for that, and you want to do some streaming to multiple platforms and recording, and you don't mind the extra time you're going to need to learn it. It's a really cool software and it can do a lot of things and it's free. So you really can't beat that if you have the time and want to put the time in to learn it. And then the last one is I have to say it like that every time. I don't know because it that's the name of it.
That's what
It's
it is.
mm-hmm. So that's literally how you spell it is MMHMM. And it's very user friendly. It links up with Zoom in the same way. You will need a green screen to use a lot of the effects that this does have to offer, but super reasonable, great software, and it gives you that extra wow factor that switches things up for your participants and whenever you're doing content too. Make it look like you're maybe hopping out of a box, or like disappearing behind a TV screen, or maybe on stage somewhere, on a theater stage. It can do some of those cool things. So definitely worth a look for those of you that want to look at software that can do some fun things for your presentations. All right. Next, we'll talk about some of the hardware. So this is the A10 Mini. I'm sure you've seen a lot of it. People talk a lot about this online. Super useful piece of hardware. Plug and play. You plug cameras or other computers, any other devices into this thing through HDMI, and then it has a cable that plugs into your computer and makes your computer think it's a webcam. So this is how you can get different effects. This is what I'm using here. So this is how I'm able to do some of this and switch my video backgrounds to different inputs. So that's a totally different computer than this computer. So I have them all plugged into this thing, and I'm just hitting the button, and the button changes which computer I want to be seen. So it's really cool. It can do a lot of these fun things. There are 5 different models, so for any budget, I think it's pretty reasonable and a great investment. So first model starts at $300, and they just came out with 2 new ones, which I can't wait for mine to come in. Haven't even received the order form for it yet. I just got it, but yeah, it goes all the way up to 1,200. So depending on your level of need, you can look at the different models, but it's a super useful piece of hardware. And I like buttons. So like if those of you are like me that like buttons, I always say I'm a professional button pusher. So yeah, I should see all the buttons I have in front of me. But I those of you that are wondering the difference between software and hardware, it's like if you want to be able to push something physically like I do, that's a great tool. Speaking of buttons, this is the Stream Deck. So this is going to allow you to program these buttons to do whatever you want them to do during your show. Maybe 3 of them are for make a song play. Maybe a couple of them are sound effects. Maybe one of them loads up your presentation. Maybe one of them turns your Zoom computer off so they can't see you anymore. So that you can program these buttons to do whatever you want, depending on the software that you're using. So when you're in the middle of when you're in the middle of an event or giving content, you don't want to be fumbling around with like, okay, let me do this. Hold on, let me share my screen, and then let me play my presentation. It's just too much to do. So that's why they created this. Is you have one button that does one thing. You push it, and that thing happens immediately. So it helps you to keep things kind of moving along, and so you're able to stay engaged with your participants. And there are 3 different models that come in. The lowest one is $80. I think it comes with like 6 or maybe 8 buttons, and then it goes all the way up to the XL is what I have, and I think it's like 36 buttons or something like that, that you can kind of program. So whatever your budget is, really useful tool. And you're definitely going to want this if you're going to be using either Ecamm or or OBS, because it just makes it so much easier to load those scenes up into the Stream Deck and then just push a button to make it happen. So you can also play videos. I play videos with it. So if you queue up a video and then you press the button and the video plays. Very
And
useful.
yeah, question
Mm-hmm.
is what's the difference between the ATM Mini and the Stream Deck?
So the A10 Mini is for inputs. So this is where you would plug in your cameras. If you want 2 camera angles,
Oh, for
if you want
cameras.
to show a different computer, a totally different computer, maybe one computer has Zoom participants on it, and you plug that into here. So those are totally different inputs. The
Mm.
Stream Deck is only connects to one computer, and so you tell that computer to do whatever you want it to do. So
Ah,
that's
okay.
yeah. So
So
that's
we start with the Stream Deck and then we go to the ATM Mini if we get more than one computer
yes, or more than one camera. Yes.
or more than one camera. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
got it.
Yes, great question. Another useful tool is dual monitors. So this is going to allow you to have more workstation and more room for your eyes to kind of not just look at one I don't want to say one place, but not have multiple windows where you're having to switch between multiple windows. It's really useful for those of you that want to connect with your audience and want to have the be able to see all the participants on your screen. Adding a dual monitor allows you to stay in Zoom, for your presentation, and have them in full screen, and then be able to have your content on another computer. And they're really reasonable. So we talked about lighting a little bit. I want to talk about backgrounds just a little bit because I think that's really important. So here's an example of someone who has a background. You'll see on the top, I think his image is great. I mean, the camera looks great. The lighting is pretty good. There's nothing wrong with that image. I mean, um, but compare it to the one below, and look at the difference that a little bit of lighting can have. So he put just a picture frame on the wall. He put a nice blue glow light behind him, which makes it look like he's glowing, which I love. And then it looks like he had a light maybe above him that he turned off, that lit up the room, and he turned on lights in front of him instead of on top of him. So that's some of the effects that lighting can have. It just a couple changes and it can make a really big difference.
Yeah, it does make a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it, but to just little upgrades, can just really help amplify. And LED lights are not expensive as well. You can find those on Amazon as well. Continue on with backgrounds. So on the top one, this isn't a physical um, background like a step and repeat, where they've printed it out and put it behind him, which is great if you don't have a lot of room for your background and you want to just have a step and repeat. It's a great tool as long as you're okay with that branding for a long time because it is an investment and you can't change it once it's already printed. So if you're satisfied and you want to invest in something like that, it's an option as a background. But below that is they try to do the same effect but virtually. And what happens is this poor guy got his head cut off because he didn't have a green screen. And so if you're going to be doing a virtual backdrop, whether it's on Zoom or with some of the software in like an Ecamm or then you want to have a green screen because it makes such a big difference. I have a green screen. That's why I'm able to kind of do a virtual background and not get cut off or have it be kind of wonky as I move around. Great. So those were a lot of those are the tips I have on amplifying your home studio. So
That's
hopefully
awesome.
you learned
That
some
answers
things.
pretty much half of the questions I had.
Great.
Yes. And let's get into also, we forgot to mention though what kind of computers we need because we need some good video graphic cards and like MacBook Pros are like the basic, right? But what if people have Windows or Microsoft computers?
Yeah.
What
So
do we
so
look for on the specs?
yeah. So when you want to look for on the specs, the thing that's most important to me is the RAM. So the RAM is most important because that's going to help you run the programs. So you need at least a 16 gigabyte RAM to run most programs nowadays. That's pretty standard from like MacBooks. I think like 20. I'm gonna say 2016 and up. But yeah, start with the 16 gigabyte RAM, even for Windows, because that's gonna help you just the programs not run slow, so it's not glitchy. If it has a graphics card, that's even better, especially if you're going to be using any of the programs I mentioned, like Ecamm or OBS. The graphics card will help the computer just to take some of the pressure off of the RAM so that you can just have a smoother show. And then so that's the main thing that I would look for. I mean, you don't need to get too technical. I don't want to overwhelm
No,
people,
no,
but
no. Just
that's what I
yeah, a
look at
couple
is like,
of specs because I used to work at Dell computers. So I
mhm,
know that not every computer can handle all these programs and all this software that we just talked about. So
yes,
it's like they get all this software and their hardware, and then the main thing, the computer stays basic and like, and then they call very angry, like, oh, you sold me. So we have to um also talk about the main thing. So if a computer has more than 60 gigabytes of RAM and it has a video graphic card, that would sustain everything that we
yeah,
did, right? Yeah,
that covers the basics. If you can
the
go,
basics. Yeah.
yeah, if you want to go above that, great, but that should be the standard.
No, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
standard. Perfect. Yeah. That's a great tip. So I was thinking now we can transition into all this music industry situation because we
Mhm.
want music in our event, but there's copyright that we have to think about, and most people don't even think about that. They just like bring the music, they stream it from Spotify, they stream it from Deezer, and then we could get into very big trouble. Right?
Mhm.
So how do we work around this copyright? Not work around it, but actually pay for the copyright? Can a DJ, can we bring a DJ? Do they have the copyright already? How does that work?
Yeah, so the way that it used to work is the venue, wherever you're hosting the venue, they're the ones that hold the license. And so you never had to worry about this thing in the past because if you rent a ballroom somewhere, the ballroom holds the license to be able to play music inside the ballroom. So it wasn't a problem. But now with the virtual, it depends on the platform you're using and what they have. So like Facebook does not hold a license for everybody to just play whatever they want. And so if you try to play something that has a song in it on Facebook, I'm sure if you've tried, then you know that they will take it down because they have algorithms to pick that stuff up. So
Yep.
you have to really be careful because it's a little bit of it's a little bit of the wild west out there when it comes to virtual events. And so when it Zoom is the same way where they do not have a license for people to play whatever they want on Zoom. However, the way that Zoom works, they currently don't have algorithms that are going into every event and finding music. So right now they don't recognize it, but that's not to say that they won't one day. So you still have to protect yourself. So there's a few things that you can do to make sure that you're covered. So the first is purchase a music license. So the two biggest ones are BMI and ASCAP, ASCAP, and those are the purchasing licenses from them will cover most music. I mean that covers a huge millions and millions of songs that you shouldn't have to worry about the licensing for the music. You can also hire a DJ and just make sure that that DJ has a license. So, like, I carry both of those licenses so that my clients don't have to worry about it because, it can be a few $100 to a few $1,000 depending on attendees and some of the questions they'll ask you. How much money are you making on the event? Some of those things. So that's another way to do it. However, this usually only covers playing the music live. It does not cover the recording and the redistribution of the music, which is a whole other type of license. So, there's a few things you can do when it comes to the recording. So, what I tell my clients is we can record the event, but for whenever we play music during breaks, we're gonna have to clip that part out so that you can, we edit videos for you. So we'll cut it right when the music starts at the break and start the video afterwards. And so that way there's no music in the recording and we can redistribute that without having to worry about any licensing issues. The other option is to play copyright free music. So they have a lot of copyright free music out there. You can even go on Spotify and type in copyright free music. Double check that that's just not the name of the playlist, but it is copyright free playlist music. But you can do that. And then there's also services out there. One of my favorites is artlist.io. So that's artlist.io, and you can purchase like a subscription from them and download as much copyright free music that you want. It's really good music, to be honest, and none of it has copyright. And so I've incorporated a lot of that into some of my events that want to play music throughout, redistribute, and don't want to have to worry about that. So that's another great tool. But yeah, most of the time, of course, just want to preface this as well. This isn't legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. Like I've done my best to do my research, but yeah, protect yourself. And also at the same time, it's like I said, it's kind of a free for all. You can probably get away with a lot of it because they're not checking on small businesses and they're not worried about that. They want to go after the big fish that are making real money on some of these events. So do what you will with that. But where I live, there's no one checking. But yeah, that's the research that I've done.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And we're not giving you guys permission to like go work around this. Like we're
No.
talking about copyright because we are in the industry, we have friends in the industry, and we want to protect their music as well. But we also want to use it in a way that inspires people, because we're creating events that change people, and music is like priority, top priority in like changing the atmosphere and the energy. And yeah, so thinking about that, right? The energy, the how
Mm-hmm.
do we incorporate the music into the event? How can I create a good playlist though? Like, you're talking about all this music, okay, great, but someone like me that likes from like super rock and roll to pop, right? All the way in the middle to classical, and but my audience might be different. Like the song that you played, that's super good, right? To bring up the energy. Now, is there like any forums or any blogs or anything that you would recommend for people to like research type of playlists? I don't know if that
Yeah.
exists.
What I like to do is I like to create what I call a branded soundtrack.
Okay.
So, you think about an event as a movie, and so the soundtrack is so important to what's going on behind the scenes and really to help amplify the entire experience, right? So, let me ask you, I want to ask the participants watching this in the chat. So, what type of music do you think would be played if you were to walk inside of a Ritz Carlton? So, you're checking into the Ritz Carlton for the weekend, you're walking into the lobby, you see the white pearl pillars, the beautiful furniture. What type of music do you think that you would be hearing as you walk in? What type of music is part of the experience? I bet it's
Mm.
something you're saying about like classical, something, Mozart maybe, something
Something
something like a
violin, like
piano,
violin
just
or piano.
soothing, right? Classy. Yeah, so that's the type of music you would think about that. Now, what
Mm.
about if you were to walk into 24-hour fitness and you're getting ready to get your pump on and you're walking into your class? What type of music do you think you would hear? That's gonna get your heart bumping.
You're gonna hear something that's electrical pop and like reggaeton and stuff like that.
Yeah, EDM, maybe some
EDM.
rap, something that gets you ready, right? So you can kind of think about the music that these brands have created, and so they put a lot of thought into creating a brand around themselves. And if you think about any brand that is really well done, you can probably guess what type of music you would associate that brand to. And so music is really important to an entire brand, and so that's why I created branded soundtracks because it really helps a cohesive experience. And so yeah, I'd love to share with you one of my best ways that you can create a branded soundtrack for yourself and for your own event.
That would be
So
awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
yeah, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to spend some time, and I want you to write down all of the emotions that you want your participants to feel when they're attending your event. When they think about you and your brand, when they think about your event, what are some of the emotions that you want them to feel? So spend some time and just write, brainstorm, just write. Get a really nice list together. So after that list is created, then you can go on to Apple Music, Spotify, whatever music source you have, and look up a bunch of different playlists. And I want it to be all over the map. I want you to look up classical. I want you to look up rock, some old school, some new school, some rap, hard metal. Switch, mix it up. Get a little bit of everything, and I want you to listen to that music with the intention of feeling
Mm,
emotion.
okay.
So I want you to play a song, and I want you to really tap into the artist's emotion. What kind of emotion is the artist portraying? What are the instruments? What do they make you feel? And I want you to just continue to listen and maybe write down some of the music. Like, wow, this song made me feel angry. This song made me feel inspired. This song made me feel happy. And start to write down some of the words, some of the emotions that are coming up within you, and continue to listen to all different types of music. And then, whenever you find the song that gives you an emotion that you want them to feel at your event, or that you want them to think about when thinking about your brand, add that
Mm.
song to your playlist. Add that song to your playlist. And maybe it might be a song that you didn't expect. Like, wow, this song makes me feel inspired, but it's a rap song, but it's inspiring lyrics, but it made me feel good. So I'm going to add that to my playlist. And so continue to build on that. And by the time that you're done listening to some different genres and a bunch of different playlists, you'll have a really nice foundation for music that you can use for the events that you want to produce. And you can see, there's a lot of pop in here. Maybe that's what's going to help represent my brand because it helps. I recognize the emotions that are around that.
Mm, that's so good. I hope that you were taking notes while he was talking because he just dropped literally $1 million advice. Music can change everything.
Yeah,
It's
it
like you
can.
said, some music can make you angry. That is so true. Like, listen to the lyrics. I tell some of my friends, they just listen to the music and they just like yap the songs and they don't even know what they're saying. And I'm like, did you just listen to what you just said? Like, why are you repeating that? Right.
Yeah,
So that,
music is powerful. The lyrics are
yeah.
powerful, and so you definitely want to be conscious of that. You're right.
Yeah, you're so super conscious. Thank you so much for all of this wonderful advice that you've given us, Andrew. You are going to offer something to our audience today, too, right?
Yes, so I'm going to be sharing with you a few different things. So the first is the home studio amplify your home studio guide. So
Mm.
all of the equipment that I mentioned, I've already written it down and I've already shared the link, so you don't have to go searching on Amazon and what was he talking about. So I'm going to share with you that guide so you can just go through and be like, I want that microphone, click it, buy it, boom, get it sent. And I also share the list of the software and some other tools in there as well. So I'm handing that off complimentary, so everyone can really upgrade their home studios because I think that's really important. And then the next thing I'll be sharing is 3 tips for why you need music at your event and how to use music in different ways at your events that are a little bit creative. So I'm going to be sharing that guide with you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to post a link in the comments, in the chat, wherever you're at, email. It's going to be everywhere so that you can use these guides and create an irresistible experience inside of your virtual events and virtual stages, like I'm calling this, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. And remember to catch the next session. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Anna.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.